The Simulation Football League presents The Kramer Show. Your non-stop SFL action begins now.
Thank you once again, Mike Daggs, for that lovely intro. And we are on episode 4 right now. We're 4 weeks in, and they're not taking off the airwaves of YouTube for the Simulation Football. I'm Kramer, of course, and this is The Kramer Show. Today we're recapping what happened in Week 3. Yes, Week 3 is already over. It's actually very exciting. But we have more SFL action going on. We're going to be talking about running backs, quarterbacks. We're going to be talking about home teams, some victories, some more rookies are keep on joining. And, yeah, there's a number that's spiking all the way up right now in the Simulation Football League. See what else we got. We got on my tape, yes, I got, not tape, but on my pieces of paper that I'm going off of because, yes, it's 2020, and I'm still using paper instead of using everything on Google Docs. I don't have to use it all the time. We're doing my personal power rankings, and, of course, predictions coming up. I give you my who you got, but I'm the only person that usually does it video-wise, so, I kind of had to go back on my word. Yes, I picked Denver to lose last week, and, of course, they win. Always good. Maybe I just need to start picking against them. But let's go into a recap of Week 3. Starting things off first with the Jacksonville Kings. They defeated the Seattle Tyrants 42-24. Might have been thinking that Seattle might have pulled a victory off at home since they beat Denver last week at home. But Christensen, 476 yards through 5 touchdowns. He had 2 picks though, so it was still a spectacular game with that 476 yards. Grayson Willis, 18 receptions, 223 yards. Hunter Jones had 4 touchdowns and logged over 100 yards on receiving. Seattle's run defense was the only highlight, only giving up 34 yards on the ground. But Zach Sandlin, 186 yards and 1 touchdown for Seattle. But Jacksonville reigned supreme. Jacksonville beaten the Storm last week. They beat the Storm in Week 3. The Tyrants in Week 3. You might want to watch out for Jacksonville and how they scheme against the offenses and defenses. They might be putting something together there in all Jacksonville. Now going on to Las Vegas, defeats Florida 27-20. Las Vegas, very shocking, very surprising in my perspective eyes that they beat the Storm if you beat Mighty, good for you. Yeah, that gives you a top tier level right there. But Las Vegas kept scoring, and their defense stepped up at home. Even though Tom Rahman, he did through 5 interceptions. Thomas Rahman, that's not good. That's not good. If you're a quarterback in the league, you cannot throw 5 interceptions. And usually when you do throw 5 interceptions, you're supposed to lose. But this time they actually won. Very interesting. Ryan Tobin, 3 interceptions. He also had a score for a touchdown, which is good. A pick 6 always. Maz Jackson picked off Cochran twice. Ron Cochran the past 2 weeks is not looking very good at all, and hopefully that can change around this next coming week. J.W. Doyle had 15 rushing yards at halftime, and he ended with 15 rushing yards. I think what can get the Storm back on track is that they can figure out that running game. Maybe it's not through Doyle. Maybe it's through someone else. You got to see. Doyle's that good big back that's going to get you that first down if need to on 3rd and short or 4th and short. Maybe you can't use him as that primary running back. I love the guy, but man, Storm has to do something else on offense. Moving on, Sioux Falls defeats Arizona Scorpions 28-14. Eddie didn't get it done this week. It was Sioux Falls defense was really good, or it was just that Arizona couldn't get their offense going. That's exactly what happened. Jillian Tyree only went 10 for 18 with 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also threw 4 interceptions. So you got to think that the defense for Arizona still played up to par with how they usually are, but still getting that loss, giving up 28 points is actually kind of very surprising. Tanner Hendricks, Manik Kanaka, if that's how you pronounce it, Eddie Gage, and Joey Chupcana all had the interceptions from those 4 interceptions from Tyree, but Colin Hart had 150 yards and 2 scores, so they couldn't stop the run. That's exactly what happened, and that's why Arizona lost. Moving on, Atlanta Swarm, 42, Mexico City Aztecs, 30. Should have been a defensive-heavy game and ended up having 72 points total. That's what was scored, which is very impressive by these 2 defensive-heavy teams in the past week. Mexico City's defense didn't play that great. Atlanta Storm's defense did not play that great at all during this game, maybe giving up 30 points. But a huge second quarter from the Swarm, and the Aztecs could not respond at all. Dunhill looks locked in at this part of the season. It's already week 3, and he's great. In this past game, he had 4 touchdowns, and they only threw 2 interceptions. Still, Marcus is still a very good quarterback, still throwing only 2 interceptions. I mean, that's not as much as like 5 against with Thomas Rahman, but those are two different type of playing quarterbacks. 182 yards and 2 touchdowns by BDG. Matt Wilson threw 5 interceptions. 5 interceptions by Matt Wilson. Come on, Matt, you can't be doing that weekly. You can't. That's probably one of the main reasons why Mexico City lost this game. Moving on, Charleston Predators defeated the Carolina Skyhawks in their home opener 20-6. Charleston's defense was too much, pressuring and forcing incompletions left and right for Sully Richardson. 57% was, in fact, what he completed. He had 1 interception he gave up, and he was sacked 5 times. That defense of Charleston's really good, and they were getting to that quarterback very quick. 2 sacks were by Jeff Hollywood. But on the offensive side, the person that was leading most of the scoring not most of the scoring, but getting the targets and whatnot, Buchanan Simmons, 77 reception yards, and he had a touchdown to add to it. Now, going on, the Denver Nightwings defeated the Baltimore Vultures 31-17. Baltimore was flat out outbeat this entire game. That 17 points was hard fought, and they earned those 17 points. Yeah, over 300 passing yards for the quarterback for Baltimore. But some highlights, but for everything was all for the Nightwings. DeMarcus Anderson recorded his first sack ever. 5 pass deflections. The D in Denver, it used to stand for deflections and also stands for defense. So the defense reigned supreme finally for once. I think they've only given up 56 points so far, which is, I think, 3rd in the SFL. They may be 1 and 2, but this defense is still here for Denver. Jared McChesney, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Bryce Battle balled out, 5 receptions, 83 yards. 31-17 Denver. Queen City Crusaders, 24. Tulsa Desperados, 14. AJ Caswell made sure the Queen City won. In fact, 10 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown by Stephen Hacker. Stephen, I don't know what's gotten into him. What was it, that 300-yard performance maybe? Was it 200? It seemed like it was 5,000 in fact last week in week 2. Going over 100 yards this time. This is a guy that gets targets. He gets receptions. He gets touchdowns. Stephen Hacker is probably by far the best wide receiver right now. My best wide receiver pick right there is Stephen Hacker, and he's just going to keep on playing the way he is probably for the rest of the season. It's only week 3, and he has he has to have over 600 yards. I didn't do the math on that one, but that's just off my mind and how he's been playing throughout the rest of this entire season so far. The bright spot for Tulsa, though, was Sonzo Robinson with 103 yards and a touchdown to add for the running back. Once again, 24-14 Queen City. Vancouver Legion, 52. The London Knights, 41. If you were expecting a defensive-heavy game, this was not what you expected at all. This was the ball being thrown all over the place. There was 1,200 yards exactly combined by both teams. Pepperhead, only 18 completions. Only 18 completions for 373 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also did throw an interception, but that's okay. Suda Nakai, 14 rushes, 221 yards along with 3 scores. 14 rushes. Just 14 for 221 yards. That's like almost, if I do my simple math in my mind, that's like 15 yards per carry. That's ridiculous. Suda Nakai, I'm going to keep on saying this. He is, right now, the best running back in the SFL that can get you any points at any given time. And I'm sorry, you can say Sandlin's probably the best, or McChesney. Give me Suda Nakai. That's their bright spot in Vancouver. Brett Killian, 8 receptions, 227 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But you gotta give some love over to London. Agnes McElwain, 452 yards, 5 touchdowns. He also did throw 3 interceptions. Once again, 52 to Vancouver and 41 to London. Let's break off the snide as the St. Louis Gladiators defeated the New England Pharaohs 37-31. The Gladiators, of course, got that monkey off their back. Pickler had 86% completions with 284 yards, 3 touchdowns, and throwing only 1 interception this time. Diesel Dawson, 133 yards and a touchdown. Cody Scott, 5 receptions for 106 yards and a touchdown. But the positive spot for the Pharaohs was Gold had 349 yards, also throwing 4 touchdowns. So, of course, he is going to be locked in throughout probably the rest of this season. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the SFL, maybe a top 10 quarterback to be exact. Now, the last game that almost ended with another loss to the Wildcats, but they actually won. Chicago Wildcats defeated the Houston Hyenas 16-14 in a defensive-heavy game. Kentez Johnson threw 3 picks. E.T. King threw 2. Ash Odom fumbled once. This defense rocked the world for both sides. Ron Hoff had 3 of the interceptions, and Ethan Kai had 9 tackles, a half a sack, and also 1 interception. The Wildcats 16, Houston Hyenas 14. That is the recap for this past week in the SFL, and you got to admit there was a lot of things that happened, a lot of things that didn't happen, and a lot of games that probably went one way and the other went the other. Before I get into almost like if it's a running back or quarterback league, let's just go with this topic that sparked my interest just the past, I wanted to actually track this. I've been tracking a lot of things, and you will see stuff coming out. But I was trying to see if the home teams have the advantage or not against the road teams, and I kind of just went back and, did my research and whatnot. And let me know if you think that's the case, but right now numbers are showing that it's not the case at all. 5-5 was the first home to road record in week 1, so 5 wins and 5 losses, so it went 50 right down the middle. Week 2, we saw that spike of home teams defeating the road teams, going 8-2, as they won that one, of course. And then week 3, we saw 6 home wins and then only 4 home losses. So you can't really say that there's a given that a home team may come in with that home advantage. But I don't see it could be a problem or a possibility. In the SFL, you have to make sure you get those playbooks right and whatnot, have the right personnel and right properties. Maybe on that week 1 to week 2 matchup difference, maybe the winners of the road teams went home on that first home week on week 2, and they actually got the fact of, hey, we actually won last week, but we're actually winning again this week. This might be just very good teams. It all depends on your playbooks and whatnot. So if you're trying to be a coach coming into this league, maybe you're new and don't understand why, like, oh, maybe there's some type of given thing that's, oh, maybe the home teams always get the edge, maybe the road teams always get the edge. No, it's all in how you scheme and how you actually bring players into your system, how your builds are set. And if you need to understand what builds are, it's going to take me forever. I'm a general manager for the Denver Nightwings, so it's like almost as if I know some stuff, but I have to ask questions all the time. So why don't you ask questions? Ask, like, hey, so what is a build? What is all this? Go ask coaches and whatnot. But if you want to tie this back into this home team, these home victories, these home losses, it's in the paper. You submit playbooks. And if you lose, you'll lose. It's a chess game every single time. So it's not like there's always a given team set that's, hey, this team's going to win. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen that way. It's all random. There's no edges to anything. Okay, so I had a question to myself. Is this a quarterbacks or a running backs league? So I did my math. Yes, I should have went to college being a math major, but I ended up getting into the media and sports media, and I work in a radio station now. So I went all the way back to week 1, and I got all the way up to week 3. So I did all of the yards for quarterbacks and their passing, and all the yards for running backs and their running. And of course, there's going to be a huge difference between the quarterbacks and running backs, but the way I've been seeing in past weeks is I see a lot of running backs getting over 100 yards per game, but then I also see those running backs that are getting like 15, maybe 17, maybe 8 yards, and I feel like all those are, not to just throw a jab at you, to J.W. Doyle. You're bringing the running backs' stats down against the quarterbacks. They're just going to call you out right there. But for quarterbacks, they have a total of 16,159 yards throwing. So then that's really good. For the running backs, it's 6,022 yards. So it's almost as if quarterbacks are going to get the majority of the plays. They always touch the ball no matter what. They always hand it off to the running backs. But there's been a spike, I feel like, of running backs shining, as you see in Sudo Nakai, where they had 244 yards. We see Sandlin had 238. There's a lot that's happening in the SFL that works out in the way of you're going to have a quarterback or a running back that's a good combo or duo, you're going to have a very good season. And we're seeing we saw that last year with Sandlin and with I can't pronounce his name anyways, but the quarterback for Seattle. You saw that good combination last year, and they ended up going into the championship. And then you see that last year as well, Josh Miller had one of his best seasons for Denver. You see that Jared McChesney was the leading back for Denver last year. That was a good combination, and it's just like you have that good combination, you're going to succeed. But I feel like the running backs this year, they're stepping up. I enjoy watching Diesel Dawson. I enjoy, of course, watching Sudo Nakai. Those are the two guys. I mean, there's so many players in the SFL that are just like, hey, we're running backs too. I mean, you can't always count out BDG. He's a guy. He's a horse. That guy's a horse. Like, I would never, if I was on defense, I would not want to tackle him because I feel like he's going to be the person that's going to put me in my place. I do not want that at all. But the running backs right now are unstoppable. I feel like they're unstoppable. They're these guys that can just get you those 5 yards at any given moment. 15 yards per carry last week for Nakai. That right there just impresses me. I'm not getting a man crush for him, but oh my gosh, Nakai, man, you are just unstoppable right now. So there's some teams in the SFL that are still undefeated, and there's 3 of them. There is 3 of them. Got Vancouver Legion, Atlanta Swarm, and the Sioux Falls Sparrows are the 3 teams, and it's not gonna last. Just know that for a fact it will not last. 2 seasons ago, Denver Nightwings went on a 7-game winning streak, and they lost. Of course, that's why I said 7-game winning streak, because they didn't win that 8th game. They lost. So you got to think all good things come to an end. I know they're 3-0 right now, but you cannot look ahead and say, hey, this is the season. This is that season where we go undefeated. That's not going to happen. If it does, congratulations to you, but the way these teams are built, I said it's not going to happen. There's a good chance that one of these teams might actually go undefeated. And if it's the 3 teams right now, and you say if it's going to be Vancouver, Atlanta, or Sioux Falls, it's going to be Sioux Falls. Give me Sioux Falls going undefeated. That was the only team that were to go undefeated. I feel like Sioux Falls right now has the best chance of going undefeated, but it's not going to look that way probably at all. Someone's going to lose. At least every team in the SFL, pat yourself on the back, has at least 1 victory, which is good. It took, I think, either 8 or 9 weeks last year that needed a win, and I'm pretty sure it was St. Louis. So, hey, they got their win in impressive fashion, too, 37-31 over New Orleans. So they got that monkey off their back. They actually won in week 3, so that's good. There's no teams waiting forever, but there's a lot of teams that have 1 win or sitting at 1 and 2. There's a lot of teams sitting at 1 and 2 right now. So with that said, I go into my power rankings right now. Power rankings right now is just mine. It's just what I came up with really fast. I actually put this rundown together today at maybe 5 a.m. in the morning, so bear with me here. I'm just going with what I see, what I've seen play-wise for the past weeks, and since this is the past week, and how records are shaped up right now. So my number 1 team right now is the Atlanta Swarm. Atlanta Swarm probably has one of the best defenses in the league, and that's why I have them at 1. I'm not going to give you much in-depth analysis on any of these, so just bear with me on that. Number 2 is I have Vancouver Legion. This is like the top 3 right now should be all set at 1, 2, and 3, but they should all be at number 1. So Vancouver Legion at 2. My 3rd one is Sioux Falls, of course. Sioux Falls, after this end of this week, I probably have had them jumped because they're not going to lose this week. At least I hope they don't lose this week. I got to look at their schedule to see who they're going against. Hey, they're going against Chicago. They're going to win this week. Number 4, Baltimore Vultures. I was kind of hesitant on putting them at 4, but they went up against a very stellar defense with the Denver Nightwings. I had them at 4. Might have been number 5 or 16 that you could put them in there or slide them in there, but at 4 is at least a given spot for them such that it is going into week 4. Number 5, Queen City. Queen City has that strong aerial attack, and they can probably rely on that a lot more, but you got to get that running game going. I know at times you can have them they have that running game goes for them. And, I mean, it seems like that offense clicks no matter what, but that defense is what scares me, and the defense is something you're going to have to rely on later on in parts of the season, because this is, I mean, a long 12 weeks of the thing. You have to get to that postseason, but you can't rely always on that aerial attack, because defenses will scheme against you on that, and, I mean, it's going to bite you in the butt when it gets to that time. Number 6, I have Charleston Predators. I still think this is a sleeper team. I know they're 2-1 right now. They lost in week 2 by, I think it was a blowout. I can't remember. But they are just a team that I feel like have a defensive solid team. But the offense is what scares me with this team. So at 6 is a solid spot that I have them there for. Number 7, the Jacksonville Kings. You're knocked off the Storm, you knocked off the Tyrants. Why aren't you at 7? If anything, I could probably put you up at number 3 or 2, because you knocked off two of the better teams that have been in the SFL the past 4 or 5 seasons. Well, with Seattle last year, but it's still with Dallas Lobos 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, the team that the Lobos moved into Seattle still was a very good team that year. And I mean, Jacksonville. At number 7, it works out that way. Number 8, Denver Nightwings. We're starting to get to that 1 and 2 type teams, and Denver is a great defense. You cannot count out Denver at any given moment. Yes, the offense may at times seem stagnant, but that's just how SFL goes. That's just how something may change. Something may even pop up at some point, but this defense still stays solid. Only giving up 54 points so far this year, which is 3rd in the SFL. You got to think that maybe 1 and 2, but this is a very good defense. Number 9, the Houston Hyenas. This is a team that, I mean, they're 1 and 2. I still like them a lot. They should have beat Chicago in this past week, but it just didn't happen that way, losing by 2 points. I still have them at 9, though. Number 10, Mexico City Aztecs. This is a team that I'm actually shocked that they're sitting at 1 and 2, but they had 2. I mean, the hard-fought losses, but the fact that they lost, their defense is not the same as it wasn't as good as it once was. I'll just put it at that. So number 10, Mexico City Aztecs. That's my power ranking. So once again, from 1 to 10, we'll start at number 10, Mexico City Aztecs. Number 9, Houston Hyenas. Number 8, Denver Nightwings. Number 7, Jacksonville Kings. Number 6, Charleston Predators. Number 5, Queen City. Number 4, Baltimore. Number 3, Sioux Falls. Number 2, Vancouver. And number 1 is Atlanta. As you've seen the past weeks, of course, we're on For the Fan Network, and, I mean, we stream those games on there. We're actually on TV. If you did not know and you've made it this far into this, yes, we're on TV. So we have a lot of people, a lot of rookies coming in, a lot of people checking in and whatnot. But currently there's 142 players. This is a source from DPP, yes, Director of Player Personnel. Well, 142 players are on the big board right now for GMs to look at, for almost pretty much everybody to look at. Everybody can actually look at this right now. 15 of those people on the rookie big board of those 142 are players from last season. So either those players have either from last season joined a team or, of course, probably have left out. But 142 players out of 15 are that's crazy from last season, and they're still here. 142 players new. And that's pretty much the last roster lock, pretty much. 99 rookies so far that I've tallied. There might be over 100 by the time this thing's posted. Have checked in. If you've joined and have not checked in, you are. I mean, you're not wasting a week, but you're pretty darn close of wasting a week, and you need to check in as soon as possible. Whenever that Tuesday at 12 a.m. hits. You bet at 12 a.m. Central Time, I need to correct myself on that, hits. You need to check in, and if you don't, you are wasting, a week. It's crucial for you. If you want to be on a team, say you do join on that Monday, you are all set to come in and check in like that. Say if you come in on a Tuesday, check in right there. If it's a Wednesday, check in on that day too, because at Wednesday at 12, not even going to be 12, 11:59 Central Time, at night, PM-wise, it closes. It closes, and you cannot check in. So make sure you don't do that. And of course, they're watching it, so they know the time and when you actually put a type in there. So they know. They always know. So it's impressive to see how many rookies have actually joined in and whatnot. All right, now let's go to my Who You Got. Who You Got on for Simulation Football League in Week 4. Let's start off, of course, go to the schedule. Just pretty much print off what was happening, what the games are all lined up, because this is Vice Wars week, baby. It was crazy last year. Vice Wars was an epic. Vice versa happened this week. This is almost like a rivalry week almost. Let's start off. Sioux Falls, the 3-0 Sioux Falls Sparrows taking on the 1-2 Chicago Wildcats. I alluded to earlier, I'm going for Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls is probably going to have an undefeated season. I'm not going to say they're going to win the championship, but a regular season they might actually have undefeated. Sioux Falls taking on Chicago. Give me Sioux Falls. Mexico City Aztecs on their road to Jacksonville Kings. Jacksonville's riding a 2-game winning streak. Let's make it a 3-game winning streak. Jacksonville beats Mexico City. In 3 weeks, 3 impressive teams they're going to knock off, and that's going to probably propel Jacksonville into an upper echelon of classes here in the Simulation Football League. Moving on, Atlanta Swarm taking on Baltimore Vultures. I think Atlanta, this is the week that they lose. Atlanta's going to take their first L. Baltimore Vultures, they lost to Denver. I don't think they're going to try to put up 2 losing performances, so it's not going to happen that way. So give me Baltimore. Queen City heading into Arizona to take on the Scorpions. Give me Queen City on this one. Arizona has not looked great on the offensive side of the football yet. Things will probably work its way out towards the middle parts or end parts of the season, but no, give me Queen City right now. St. Louis Gladiators coming off their first victory, taking on Charleston Predators. Give me Charleston. This defense is good. Pickler, I'm going to say, he's going to probably throw 3 interceptions and probably have 180-some yards. That's a bold take right there. I feel like it's going to happen. Charleston's defense is really good. New Orleans Pharaohs taking on the London Knights. Give me the London Knights. This is a team that is just consistent, but also has some bad things come their way, but this is a good thing for them taking the win against the Pharaohs. Seattle Tyrants going into Florida to take on the Storm. This is probably my game of the week. I actually want to watch this. 2 teams from the past 2 seasons that have played very well football, sitting at 1-2. This actually might be the factor of who's going to actually make postseason run, and the fact that it's week 3 and it could possibly add in a factor to it is actually very, very impressive, and it's also going to be very, crucial at this point. You need to win this game. This is a game that you must win if you're one of these 2 teams, but I'm going for Seattle on this one. I know they lost 2 games in a row. Well, a game... Yeah, no, they lost. No, they won week 2. They beat Denver Nightwings, sadly. But give me Seattle on this one. I don't see them winning 2 games in a row, or losing 2 games in a row. Florida have already done it. I can see them losing 3. This is not a good Florida team. It's not. It's weird. There's a tide turning in Florida. The Storm, a tide's turning. The tide's coming in on them. I crack myself up at times. All right, moving on. Vancouver Legion going into Carolina to take on the Skyhawks. Vancouver. Skyhawks, they need to get that offense better. I know there's at least certain times that it looks good, but only 6 points last week, and it's all from their kicker, which, hey, don't get me wrong, kickers are people too. Trust me, I know this. Give me Vancouver. Tulsa Desperados taking on the Houston Hyenas. Give me Houston at home. Houston's is a team that they lose those shocking games. I didn't think they'd lose against Chicago at all, and that ended up happening. They could have won, but the kind of a fumble that's happened off of a punt that did not go so side with them. So give me Houston. They're going to bounce back. Give me Houston. Denver Nightwings taking on Las Vegas Fury for Vice Wars. Give me Denver. Denver won the past 2 games last season, and they're not going to lose to Las Vegas again. I know Las Vegas came off that win against Florida, but that was Florida. Florida's a different team now, and Denver's still the same team, even though they have lost twice. So it's okay. So give me the Denver Nightwings for this week. And that will do it for the rest of this show. Yeah, sorry we didn't have any guest on. It was just a boring Kramer talking the entire time. But at times it's gonna work out that way. But still, keep it locked in here. We're always gonna give you some action here on the Kramer Show. But I gotta let you know, the Kramer Show will be back next week with Week 4 action recaps. All you name it. We'll actually have guests this time, and I'll actually have something scheduled up and have a nice, better, interesting show. For right now, I don't even know why you even watch this, but if you do, thank you. Awesome. Congratulations. You made it this far into the video. Have a good one, and that was the Kramer Show.